Algebra 1, Lesson 62, we are displaying data in stem and leaf plots and in histograms. So we have a couple of vocab terms. Stem and leaf plot organizes data by showing the distribution of values. Relative frequency, this is the number of times an event happens divided by the total number of trials. And a histogram, this displays frequencies of data in equal intervals. Relative frequency, although it's a new term, it's not a new idea because it's very similar to probability, but we're looking at the data. So with stem and leaf plots, a couple things to remember. The last digit is always the leaf and the others are the stem. And we must go in numerical order. You must have a key and a title, and you use this to display large amounts of data. So let's look at this example. So for this, maybe you come up with a situation that could occur with these numbers. So maybe like, I don't know, number of Skittles you can fit in your pocket, or number of bobby pins a girl has lost in her hair, or number of, I don't know, dogs in a shelter, or something like that. Whatever it might be, you're going to put the title right above your stem and leaf plot. And then we are going to look at all the stems and leaves. So it looks like our lowest quantity is 53. So I start with my 50s. And I have a 3 and a 5. My 53 and 55. And then I look at my 60s. And it looks like I have a 64, a 66, two of those actually, a 67, and a 69. And then with my 70s, I have a 70, a 74, a 77, and a 78. And lastly, my 80s, I have an 80, an 81, an 82, and an 83. With this, we can actually figure out a lot of different things with this data. We could find the median, the mode, the range, the mean if we wanted to go there. Okay, but remember, when we find that median, it actually ends up being this number right here. And it's not 0 that is our median, it's actually 70, and that's what the key is useful for. So that we can say if I have a 6 bar 4, that means I have a 64. So when we get to the middle and say that 0 is in the middle of our data, well, we say that's 70. All right, here's another example that you can try. Putting all of your stems and leaves, creating that key, putting the title, and figuring out what is the relative frequency of 80. Well, there's actually 30 data points up here. So out of our 30 trials, how many of them are 80? And we look and see we have an 80, an 80, and another 80. So we have 3 out of 30. So a relative frequency of 1 out of 10. It's very similar to probability, but we call it relative frequency because we want to know how many times it occurs versus the total number of times. Now histograms, we create a frequency table. The bars must be touching and the intervals must be equal. So, excuse me. So we have this frequency table that we started setting up. Remember, the intervals must be equal. So in this case, we go 50 to 59. It actually covers 10 different numbers. So does everything below it. And we start tallying up how many numbers are in each interval. And we look and we say we have 2 in 50 to 59. We have, let's see, we have 5. Oop, my tallies go here. 5 from 60 to 69. We have 4 from 70 to 79, and 4 from 80 to 89. So that when we start creating my histogram, I can say, well, let's say this data represents how many pets are in a shelter or something. So we can say pets in shelter, and down here we're going to say number of pets. And here we're going to say the frequency. Frequency is always my y-axis. And we're going to start creating our buckets from 50 to 59, and a bucket from 60 to 69, 70 to 79, and my 80 to 89. And we'll have my frequency 1, 2, up to 5. Okay, so that we can create bars for each of these. It's best if they're different colors, but they must be touching. So we have a bar to 2 for my 50 to 59, a bar to 5, and 2 bars of 4. All right. And we have my histogram with all those different titles and labels and those bars that are touching. All right, so here's another example that you can try to create a histogram. I would encourage you to use a graphing calculator for this one and figure out what would be a good interval for this to figure out what the data looks like. Well, I hope this is helpful for your homework and for studying.